be a by-election in Manchester. Rumours are then that Andy Burnham is limbering up. So you tell me, do you think that this is the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer? And also a simple question for you tonight. Do you think that the UK should join the so-called Board of Peace? And get this, you won't actually believe this, a protest group have decided that they are going to organise what they call take-backs, where their activists wander into shops and empty the shelves of food to give it to those people that they decide are the needy. I beg your pardon? All of that and lots more. My panel tonight, the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, and alongside him, the journalist and former political advisor, Joe Phillips. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you, and good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. Donald Trump has insisted things are calming down as he appeared alongside world leaders at the launch of his so-called Board of Peace today. But Britain has chosen not to sign up, distancing itself from the initiative amid concerns about Russian involvement in the proposal. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper told MPs the UK would instead work with allies on what she described as a different supportive role, particularly around efforts to secure peace in Gaza. The Foreign Secretary says the UK does back the US President's wider 20-point peace plan in the Middle East, even as it keeps its distance from today's ceremony. Well, repeating his familiar claims, Mr. Trump said the world is seeing progress, insisting multiple wars have already been settled, with another one coming soon.
And, of course, the war in Gaza, which is really coming to an end. We have little fires that we'll put out, but they're little. They were giant, massive fires, and now they're down to little fires. And many have said that if Hamas doesn't do what they promised they would do, and I think they probably will, but they were born with rifles in their hands, they were literally born. The first day they had a rifle put into their hands, but they have to give up their weapons, and if they don't do that, it's going to be the end of them.
In other news tonight, a by-election is now firmly on the horizon in Greater Manchester, and it could clear a path back to Westminster for Andy Burnham. Former Labour Minister Andrew Gwynn has confirmed he will stand down as an MP for Gorton and Denton for medical reasons, he says. Mr Gwynn was previously sacked from government and suspended from the Labour Party over racist and sexist WhatsApp messages. Asked whether he would support Burnham running in a by-election, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer declined to comment, saying the party would decide the process. Mr Burnham says he's in the dark still about any plans and insists he remains focused on Greater Manchester. The Home Secretary says Britain should never have housed asylum seekers in hotels, that as the first migrants move into a former military barracks in East Sussex. 27 men have arrived at Crowborough training camp with plans for the site to eventually house up to 500 people as the government tries to phase out hotel use. Shabana Mahmood says using military sites is essential to fixing a costly and a chaotic system and has vowed to defend the decision against any legal challenge. But the move has sparked anger locally, with the council considering court action and residents raising concerns. Ministers, though, insist hotel use is already falling and say this marks a turning point in asylum accommodation. The row over Greenland is cooling and the focus is now turning to what happens next. At Chequers, Sir Keir Starmer met Denmark's Prime Minister just a day after Donald Trump dropped his threat of tariffs linked to Greenland. Sir Keir Starmer said that U-turn was a good thing after weeks of tension that brought the US and Europe close to a trade war, and said that priority now is on practical cooperation for Arctic security.
Now we can get on with the job of rolling up our sleeves and answering the question, how to improve security in the Arctic, which everybody agrees with. We will do that in the way we've got through the last few days from a UK point of view, which is with British pragmatism, British common sense, and British adherence and sticking to our values and principles.
And just before I hand you back to Michelle, a quick breaking line. We're hearing from the Defence Secretary John Healey that today Britain confirming it played a key role in a French operation to intercept a sanctioned Russian oil tanker near Gibraltar. The UK providing tracking and intelligence support, including deploying HMS Dagger to monitor the vessel. As it was later boarded, that tanker in the Mediterranean, President Emmanuel Macron confirming that the tanker was part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet, accusing it of helping to bankroll the war in Ukraine. So a joint operation there confirmed by the Defence Secretary John Healey as that Russian oil tanker was boarded near Gibraltar. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you at 7. Now, though, it's over to Michelle.
Thank you very much for that, and hello, good evening to each and every single one of you. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co, keeping you company until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin McKenzie, and the journalist and former political advisor, Joe Phillips. Good evening to both of you. One of my viewers got in touch last night and said to me, Michelle, I say this as constructive feedback, you never smile. You need to smile more. So it was my mission to smile more tonight, and then I realised Kelvin is on my panel, and it ruined the whole thing. So whoever that viewer is, I promise you, I did come to work today with good intentions to smile, but he's ruined it all. I'll still try my best, though. Anyway, look, you can join the conversation in all the usual ways. You can get in touch on email, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet, and you can X me so much stuff that we need to discuss tonight. Last night, I can tell you were all absolutely livid about these council delayed elections. We were told, weren't we, by the Labour councillor, you know what, don't worry about it. You'll all have your consultations before your decisions are made. Well, of course, today it was confirmed that 29 of those local council elections in England have been delayed. Get in touch with me again tonight if you're among them and tell me, how do you feel about that? But look, without further ado, we followed this story here, haven't we, in East Sussex, Crowborough. You'd have thought I'd been able to say it by now. It's a tongue twister for me. They've been protesting there for a long time now about these not-so-small boat migrants being placed in this camp. Well, now it's happened in the dead of night. They are indeed moved in. Let me take you there without further ado. Our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, is live. Good evening to you, Mark. Bring the viewers up to speed with the latest.
Well, Michelle, it's been absolutely horrific weather-wise down here today, but still throughout the day, people have turned up to express their real frustration and their anger at what has happened. The fact that the Home Office, under the cover of darkness, snuck the first 27 migrants under police escort into this former military training camp, the first of some 500. And look at that, even behind us now, despite the weather, some local residents who've turned up, who are protesting here and who are going to be joined in the next hour or two to get...
Oh, sorry about that. As he said, the weather is very bad indeed. We're going to return back to Mark in just a second. But while we're reconnecting to him, Kelvin, what do you think to this?
Well, it's shocking for the people of Crowborough, but I suppose there will be other people around the country saying, well, I'm pleased that they're sharing the same pain that we're sharing. The truth about the matter is, of course, there is no solution to this while we continue to allow these people to come in. Under Labour, there have been 65,000 have arrived since July 2024, and I imagine we can see those numbers continuing now for the duration of the Labour administration. The only joy in all this is that every time another boatload arrives, it creates a moment when Labour won't be elected at the next election. So that's the only pleasure I get out of it.
Well, there you go. Let me take you back to Crowborough. Mark White.
Yeah, the weather, as you say, has been, playing havoc with the technical equipment here. The rain is absolutely everywhere. But those protesters being greeted by regular beeps of the horn from the passing traffic, from local residents who share their concern about the prospect of 500 migrants being housed here in this former military base, next to communities which just don't have the infrastructure. We're joined now actually by Ben Stevens, who is one of the local residents. In fact, Ben, you just live a few doors down. You have a very young family. Tell us about your concerns.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, including myself, the town and everybody in the surrounding areas is absolutely petrified, and for good reason. You know, we do live just way too close to this for our liking. I've got a young daughter, I've got a young family, you know, I've got a wife, mother that lives nearby, I've got a sister. For every father out there, in fact every parent, you know, it's our duty to protect our families, and you know, I'm stood here wondering how am I going to deliver on that. It's a genuine real concern.
It doesn't seem as though the Home Secretary is in any mood to back down. In fact, she's been saying today that this is going to be the model that will be rolled out right across the country in former military bases.
Yeah, and I watched an interview on your show earlier on today, and she was saying that she was going to work with local communities, but there's absolutely no evidence of that. She's just playing lip service. It's just rubbish. It's complete rubbish. She's going to roll this out across as many camps or as many military sites across the country as she needs to.
I mean, give us an indication. Obviously, lots of people around the country probably don't know about Crowborough and the surrounding towns and villages, but just how small are they? How less than ideal are they in terms of supporting hundreds of young men coming in and looking for services in those communities?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, Crowborough backs onto the Ashdown Forest, which, you know, I'm sure some of your viewers know, but the villages surrounding Crowborough are tiny, and Crowborough is a small town. You know, I remember, you know, Crowborough still being a village, and you know, it's grown over the years steadily into a town, but it's not, you know, it's just not feasible for a town of this size and its location to kind of support that number of migrants.
And also, I mean, local doctors are going to have to take on these migrants as well. How difficult is it to get an appointment at your local surgery anyway, Randy?
Almost impossible. You know, as I said, I've got a young daughter, so doctors for checkups and jabs and that kind of thing, you know, it's almost impossible. You have to wait weeks. For those that are fortunate enough, private healthcare, but if you're not, which many people aren't, you're on your own.
What is the next step though, Ben? Because you hear your voice in your protest, you're getting a lot of local support, as we can hear, but how do you take that message to government if you have a Home Secretary that's not listening? Is court action the only step forward, really?
Well, it's one of the steps, and I think it's an important step, and we hope that, you know, that goes through the court system and we get a judge that's on our side and can understand and see what's actually fair, because this is not fair. I think we vote with our feet. You know, the community of Crowborough and surrounding areas and other towns that have supported us have been absolutely incredible. You know, we've had thousands of people out here week after week marching in the snow, wind, rain. We've had the sun as well, which has been good, but all weathers. You know, and we'll continue to fight.
Ben Stevens, thank you very much indeed for joining us live on GB News. One of many people that I've been speaking to throughout the day here, and the message has been consistent. They're deeply concerned about the potential implications of the impact on their community of having hundreds of young men, bored young men, who are not being kept, Michelle, inside this former military base. They are free to go into the communities around here as often as they want. Communities that don't have the kind of the shops, the infrastructure to support these young men, and also there is, they say, the safety concerns as well, following notable incidents that we've been reporting on GB News over the past year or two.
Mark, I apologise, I'm putting you on the spot here slightly, but if people are watching this and they'll say, hold on a minute, this notion that all of these asylum seekers, they're more dangerous, they've got a higher propensity to commit crime and all the rest of it, some people will say that's a fallacy. What would you say back to that?
Well, listen, I think the jury is out, to use a legal term, in terms of whether individual asylum seekers from certain countries have a greater propensity to carry out certain crimes than, say, people who have been born and bred in this country. But what is absolutely true is that whenever you get hundreds of young men together who have nothing to do, and they literally have nothing to do from one day to the next other than perhaps go into local towns. They don't know anybody other than their own groups. So there is always a propensity for those individuals to go on and to commit criminality. We see it day in, day out with more reports of crimes that have been committed by people who are asylum seekers in asylum accommodation.
Mark White, thank you very much for that. I shall leave you to go and dry off. You've earned it. Joe Phillips, what do you think to all of this?
Well, I mean, you know, we should never have got to this stage, and Kelvin's absolutely right. But this looks like a better option than a hotel in the middle of a town. The problem is, as Mark was illustrating there, is that they're not being kept in the army camp, and I think, you know, that is the problem. It's all the things that Mark said. You've got people hanging around with nothing to do. You know, this fear, which I can understand why people feel worried and anxious about suddenly having hundreds of people, strangers in their midst. But, you know, we shouldn't be. It's irresponsible to paint every single asylum seeker as a potential rapist. Some of them will be engineers and teachers and people who have done things.
I'm surprised you're not telling me they're not all doctors and stuff like that.
Well, I'm not, but you know, they're not all, they're not all unskilled.
They're already employed, those ones.
But
yeah,
some people will be fleeing places because they're fleeing places like Iran or Afghanistan.
They're fleeing places like France. This is the reality is in this country, and it's never going to happen, unfortunately. The only way you will stop this is by literally physically stopping those boats.
Yeah, well,
that's it.
And that has to happen on the French side.
Yeah, but no one's got the chops for it. It's only now, this week, I don't know if you saw it, ladies and gents.
Yeah, I saw it.
It was only this week, after goodness knows how long, goodness knows how many hundreds of millions of pounds that we taxpayers have given to the French authorities. It's only this week that they've now decided, taken it upon themselves, to actually try and board and stop these boats. And even then, there's huge caveats to it, by the way, because they won't do it if there's anyone on board or anything like that. Nobody has got the chops to do what needs to be done, and that is to physically stop, and it will be ugly. It might look cruel when you look at it in isolation, but it is the only way, in my humble opinion, that it'll stop. Do you agree with me, Kelvin, or am I wrong?
Well, I agree with it, but I've always said this, and the argument now is now not that the people of the UK don't want it. I imagine if there were a referendum on this basis, it would be like 80-20. But it's the people of France saying, we don't want them either. And on that basis, if we can ship 100,000 over to the UK, jolly good for us. We have got to take the French on. That is the problem. I
think it's one of the biggest dereliction of duties that we've ever seen in this country from our government. Our government is supposed to keep the British citizens safe. What is happening is doing the complete and total other opposite. Don't even get me started on the absolute unfairness of it all. When you guys, many of you can't get in to see your doctor, these guys are fast-tracked. They bust in to the doctors as priority customers, if you will. Absolutely appalling. Where are all those people, by the way, that are really furious about inequality? Where are all those protesters protesting about that inequality? I've not seen that, have you? Anyway, look, so much more that we need to discuss. I'll see you in a second.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things up the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin Mackenzie and Joe Phillips. Janet says, Michelle, we need our own ICE agents in this country. Mark said, ooh, Mark, you'll put the cat among the pigeons with this one, my friend. He says, a lot of these migrants want to go out and work, Michelle. We should let them. Let me just ask you very quickly to ponder this then, Mark, and give me your answer. If you think you allow these people to work as soon as they come into this country, riddle me this. Do you think that will increase the number of people making this crossing or decrease? Will it act as an incentive or a disincentive? Do tell me, Mark, what you think to that. In the meantime, the Board of Peace, there's lots of conversations about whether or not the UK should join it. Without further ado, then, let me take you over to the Gaza Strip. Charlie Peters has been there. Let's look at what he's been up to.
Well, behind me is an IDF tank here at this outpost inside the Gaza Strip. We're here on an IDF embed as part of an international press visit towards the coastal enclave, 4 months into that ceasefire that started in October. We've been here for an hour and already heard plenty of gunfire, they say, between the IDF and Hamas. We've also been shown intelligence of recent Hamas activity around this location. That includes new terrorist infrastructure like tunnels and tunnel shafts being discovered. We've also been shown footage, the IDF says, from yesterday of when a Hamas terrorist approached this location, produced a rifle, opened fire on the IDF and was then eliminated. An IDF officer told us earlier that this morning they also killed a Hamas terrorist who was attempting to plant explosives around this heavily fortified location. We're in an area known as the Yellow Line. As part of that peace agreement, they need to be in this location, they say, to remove that Hamas infrastructure, to remove those tunnels, to disarm the terrorist organisation. But a problem that they have got is that there is still tremendous Hamas activity in this area and also so much destruction, affording them new cover and concealment around the area. Behind me, there is almost total destruction. 60 million tons of rubble. The United Nations says it's enough to fill 3,000 container ships. And as you stand here and look out, you can barely see any forms of life. You can hear a drone above you and occasional sounds of gunshots. That are the only signs of human activity in this area. A lot of crumbled homes, a lot of destroyed buildings, some intact areas, but so much destruction here. And as they approach phase 2 of that ceasefire deal, Donald J. Trump's Board of Peace will be enacted. There are many concerns in Israel that Hamas is going to be supported by Qatar and Turkey, two countries on that board. Or is this area, with so much death and destruction since October the 7th, set to continue in a world where Hamas still has weapons and the IDF is not ready to leave?
Interesting stuff. Let me take you live then to Tel Aviv. Charlie Peters is there. Interesting stuff there. Tell us more, Charlie Peters.
Well, Michelle, entering the Gaza Strip yesterday with the IDF, it's the only way you can get into the coastal enclave. The IDF does not allow journalists to independently enter the area, but it was extraordinary to witness the heavy weight of violence that is still ongoing inside Gaza, 4 months into what's being described as a ceasefire. Since October, Hamas and Israel, the IDF, are meant to no longer be at war, but yesterday 13 Palestinians were killed, according to Hamas. The IDF confirmed some of those fatal clashes, and during the hour or so that I was inside the Gaza Strip in a central area inside the so-called yellow line, I heard a constant drumbeat of gunfire, artillery and a drone above those Palestinian positions, observing what was going on beneath them as heavily fortified outposts and positions that the IDF were manning continued to, they said in their two missions, defend the Israelis behind them and also to disarm and dismantle the terrorist infrastructure beneath them. There are many problems with the Israeli deployment. The yellow line is very unclear. It's set out by a set of yellow blocks in the distance, but a lot of Palestinians are unable to know exactly where the line is marked. Some innocent civilians have been killed as they accidentally crossed into the area. The IDF say that they put down leaflets or try and exchange messages with those civilians to make sure they don't go anywhere closer to it. But also, many Hamas terrorists have been killed since October, attempting to enter into that Israeli-controlled area. And yesterday, the IDF showed us what they said was evidence of recent incursions into those Israeli positions. We saw evidence provided by the IDF of terrorists being shot, being eliminated as they produced weapons and fired on the IDF. We were also told, although we were not shown footage of this, that another man had been killed attempting to plant explosives near the position that we were at yesterday in the morning. Now, very soon before we entered the Gaza Strip, 3 journalists were killed in the area, and the IDF has said they're reviewing that there is a claim that they were operating a drone linked to Hamas. The weight of violence in there is intense, and all of this comes as Hamas is meant to disarm. Donald Trump in Davos today said that if they do not disarm, they will be blown away as we approach the second phase of this peace deal. And until that happens, until the Israelis are satisfied that that terrorist group no longer has the infrastructure, the weapons and the tunnels they need to launch attacks on Israel, then the Israelis will not withdraw.
People watching this, I mean, this is a horrendous situation. There's no disputing that. And one of the challenges in all of this has been trying to decipher what the actual true reality really is. People will claim propaganda on both sides. Just to educate people as to why journalists are not allowed in there off their own steam. Why do they need to be accompanied by the IDF? Isn't that just the IDF presenting only what they want to present?
Well, Michelle, that's precisely the problem. We want to be able to enter the Gaza Strip independently to verify claims made on both sides, but the IDF does not permit that. They do have these occasional press trips inside the area, but so much. Yeah, I hadn't finished speaking. So they don't, because they have control over the Gaza Strip and they are keen to maintain that control. That allows them to maintain information security, to prevent intelligence and military operations from being leaked. It also allows them to control the information coming out of the area. Nothing happens inside the Gaza Strip, Michelle, without the permission of Hamas or the IDF. This creates a very contested information space. It makes our jobs extremely difficult.
Indeed. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing, Charlie Peters, and do stay safe. Kelvin McKenzie, I mean, of course, we've got conversations right now of the so-called Board of Peace. The UK have been offered a position on that, as has Tony Blair. Tony Blair, he's up there like a rat up a drain pipe saying yes to his. The UK have been somewhat more cautious. What do you think?
Well, it's a ludicrous argument by Starmer that he refuses to take part in this Board of Peace, because his argument basically is Putin's involved I don't know whether Starmer has noticed that the United Nations, that Putin is one of the, or Russia itself is one of the main movers and shakers within the United Nations, and they use their veto left, right and centre. So I don't know what his problem is, Starmer, but as with most things, Blair has outfoxed Starmer. So Starmer's now on the outside and he's supposed to be the Prime Minister. It's not going to be there much longer. With a bit of luck, actually, it probably won't be Andy Burnham, it'll probably be Polanski. But so it doesn't really matter. But the thing is I admire about Blair, because he always pops up. There's something about him. He's like some kind of rubber ball. He bounces back higher. This Board of Peace, I laugh about it in some ways, because under the terms of it, as I understand it, Trump is not only founding it, he can't ever be removed.
No, exactly.
And he picks everybody.
Yeah.
And that can't change. And
you've got to pay £1 billion.
And you've got to pay $1 billion.
Join.
Well,
yeah.
actually, that's the difference between Blair and Starmer. Blair has got £1 billion, whereas Starmer hasn't got enough to probably pay his rates bill.
I think the UK is very wise to give it a wide berth, because this started out and was agreed by the UN, actually, the UN Security Council, as Gaza rebuilding. There is no mention in the draft document. It's all about the things that Kelvin said. And the only bit about Gaza that we've seen today is all the stuff that we've seen and heard before, with Jared Kushner unveiling this sort of gorgeous Mediterranean seaside resort. It's a property developer's pyramid scheme.
But taking Charlie Peters' point about this, that there is gunfire galore going on over there, nothing can be solved there until Hamas actually hand their guns in. Right, they need to hand their guns in, and if they don't, there isn't going to be any rebuilding. It's going to stay a building site forever and a day.
So what is Trump's great plan? Because he thinks he's stopped this war.
Well, there you go. Has he stopped the war? Well, should we be on this Board of Peace? Is that a good use of your taxpayer dollar or not? What do you make to the whole thing? Get in touch, join the conversation. So much more that we need to discuss. Let's pick up then on that by-election that's been confirmed in Manchester. Is this Andy Burnham's opportunity to get rid of Starmer? And also, you won't believe this protest group that I'm going to tell you about as well. See you in a minute.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Much of Europe at the moment looking as unsettled as the UK. Spells of heavy rain for Greece, windy in Iberia, and those strong winds also containing cold air. So they're going to bring showers and longer spells of rain to Portugal in particular during Friday, with some hill and mountain snow as a consequence. Rain easing off for a time across Italy, but further spells of wet weather expected into the weekend, and we've got a lot of showers, heavy downpours throughout much of Greece. Fresh snow, though, for the Alps.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. I've got more wind, more rain and more weather warnings to tell you about. It's been a very soggy day for some, and the rain continuing to fall in eastern Scotland from this weather front. There's another one draped across Wales and Northern Ireland, and this low now approaching from the southwest is going to bring more rain and strong winds into the southwest later tonight. Yellow warnings in place across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the rain turning increasingly to snow over the hills in eastern Scotland, with the wind blowing that snow in. That means blizzards on parts of the A9. Yet next band of rain tracking northwards into parts of South Wales and southwest England, getting very gusty here through the night as well. Temperatures mostly holding up a few degrees above freezing. On to Friday, it's looking a little drier, certainly initially for Northern Ireland, but a wet start for the south of Wales, much of southeast England. Soggy again for most of Scotland. A rain warning remains in place, although, as I said, increasingly over the hills turning to snow. Over the Western Highlands, actually, for many it'll be dry through much of Friday. Some sunny spells here, but a cold, blustery wind bringing in the feed from the North Sea, bringing in the cloud and the rain, and the winds picking up in the southwest, as I said, through the night. A blustery day for southwest England and South Wales. A wet start for South Wales. That band of rain moves northwards, and then a whole host of more showers come in here too. The ground is saturated, so extra rain hasn't really got anywhere to go. A lot of spray, a lot of surface water on the roads through the course of tomorrow afternoon and through the evening rush hour. That rain moving into northern England and Northern Ireland. Something a bit drier in between, as I said, with some shelter. Northwest Scotland not doing bad for dry weather during the course of tomorrow. It's a similar picture on Saturday. We've still got low pressure nearby, gusty winds, plenty of showers for Wales and southwest England. Continued risk of flooding here, as there is in eastern Scotland, as the wet weather continues, and still further snow on the hills and still a brisk wind, making it feel chilly. All the weather warnings on the Met Office website.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A9 southbound at Tibbermore, there are restrictions after a broken down vehicle. On the M4 westbound, expect slow traffic between junction 39 and junction 43, from Growis to Landarsea. In Nottinghamshire, the A52 eastbound is congested between the A6011 and the A46. Also, on the M4 eastbound in West Berkshire, one lane is shut between junction 13 and junction 12 after a crash. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has disruption around Watford Junction, while Great Western Railway is using road transport between Liskeard and Looe. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs and Co. I am Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me I've got Kelvin McKenzie and Joe Phillips. Lots of you have been getting in touch. We had that conversation last night, didn't we, about these council elections getting delayed. The Labour fella last night trying to convince all of us lot that it was all going to be put up to consultations. Not at all. 29 confirmed as being postponed today. If you're in those areas, I mean, the strength of feeling, people are absolutely livid. Lots of people as well saying, why do I have to pay my council tax, Michelle? Why is there taxation if there's no representation? Lots of people coming through thick and fast on that one. But speaking of politics and speaking of elections, it looks now that we're going to get another by-election, this time in Manchester. This is the guy, Andrew Gwynn. He was the fella that got turfed out of the Labour Party for sending all kinds of stuff on a WhatsApp group that I think was called Trigger Me Timbers or something like that. Anyway, people are now saying that this is Burnham's opportunity to get in there and oust Starmer. Kelvin?
I beg him to do it. This will be fantastic. And I urge the people, I think of Gorton and Denton, the constituency, to get their custard pies out and be prepared to humiliate him in the voting. Because we are now in a completely different world to the one that he left. We are now basically in a almost five-party battle for power. And say the Tories don't stand, even if they do, I think the Tories will all vote reform anyway. So that's one problem. The other problem is what happens to Labour. The Greens did well in the 24 election. Unbelievably, they got a huge number, like 15,000 or something. And
that was before Polanski.
That's before Polanski. So I can honestly see, I would guarantee, I'll send a couple £100 to charity if Burnham becomes the MP for Gorton and Denton. If I'm Burnham, I don't stand there.
No.
What I do is I wait until May.
Absolutely.
And he will already have a deal with somebody in the area. And say, I'll make you Lord Cholmondeley of somewhere. And then I'll have a go, because the humiliation for Labour in that election will be so enormous.
No, I completely agree with you. I think Andy Burnham would be mad. Apart from anything else, there are many hurdles to get through. Because he's an elected mayor, the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party has got to agree.
And they quite like Starmer.
And they've got to agree to Andy Burnham resigning as Labour Mayor of Manchester, where he's done a really good job, actually, and continues to do a really good job. So that's your first hurdle. Then he's got to be selected, also by the NEC, as the candidate. Reform would throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. The Tories might decide not to bother. The Greens have now got Polanski on the move.
But don't you think Polanski is an even bigger danger to Burnham? You don't have much power. You live in, not one of the great areas of the world, and suddenly you're being told to embellish and help somebody else's ambition. I have got to give my vote up. I know the British people. I know the English people. They are not giving their vote to a Burnham who suddenly decides, actually, I've done my fill at Manchester. I'm going to do it.
I also don't think he's I don't think he is the prince over the water that is going to save Labour, because actually it's not so much Keir Starmer, who I think he's an appalling communicator, but I think he's done quite well on the international stage.
How many do you think are in your club on that?
I don't know, Kelvin, but they won't be watching GB News, that's for sure.
How do you know? We have a mixed audience, thank you.
Exactly. Not very, Michelle. They do. They prefer Kelvin to me. But but my point would be, there is no guarantee that Andy Burnham or anybody else coming in would change the fortunes. It is up to the government, and the things that need changing are a chancellor, perhaps, get rid of Rachel Reeves, change the makeup of Downing Street and focus on the things that need to be done, and don't keep making daft mistakes.
So supposing, let's work on the cheerful, in my view.
Oh, yeah, somebody told me
which is that Burnham stands.
Yeah,
right?
and wins.
Burnham loses, right?
Disaster.
So he's no longer the mayor.
No, exactly.
And he's no longer an MP.
No.
And then he becomes Lord Cholmondeley.
Yeah.
And so I can't. The humiliation ahead of him.
Awful.
Fantastic.
No, it would
look,
be so
if we
good.
can work this out,
exactly.
Is he cleverer than us?
Well, I think he sort of shot his bolt too soon at the conference, and he sort of went away because he was making moves last autumn to sort of, to try and sort of say, I'm here, I'm ready. I think Keir Starmer's ratings actually have gone up slightly, and I think we've also seen a shift in that Kemi Badenoch's ratings have slightly improved. And I think that's quite significant, because Reform is, although they get an awful lot of coverage and they make an awful lot of noise, they are beginning to look like the offshoot.
No, but the only reason for that is that there is no concentration.
They're beginning to look like an offshoot of a golf club. There's an awful lot of blokes of a certain age, and some of them used to be Tory MPs. And that might not be so attractive now if you've got Kemi Badenoch, who's proved her mettle.
If Reform went back to their basics and simply focused on, I am going to stop those illegal migrants landing at Dover, I guarantee you they'll be back up at 30%. But what Nigel's trying to do is make himself more attractive to people. And in doing so, I suspect that's why he's
Do you know what I
slightly.
thought was interesting that I saw today? The Green Party, there was a council by-election, basically. The council gained their first council seat from Reform.
Yeah.
And I thought this was really interesting
where's that?
in Derbyshire. So the Greens got 1,341 votes, and Reform got 1,091 votes. I just thought that was really interesting.
No, I think it is interesting. And, the Lib Dems, who don't get any cut through particularly nationally, but they are still picking up seats.
Oh, I can't. Do you know, the Lib Dem, honestly, I feel quite insulted. When I see Ed Davey, I feel that they take the British people for absolute schmucks. All of these stunts, all of the ridiculousness.
He hasn't done any stunts since the election.
Oh, they're
Michelle.
always out. Do you follow them on Twitter? They're always out doing
Twitter.
stupid things on Twitter.
I tell you something,
I think
the Liberal Democrats are the only party that have mentioned social care. This government hasn't, and despite promises from previous Conservative governments, they haven't either.
Families should look after their people, not send the bill to the rest of us. So, anyway, Ed Davey...
He's hitting there for his own kids to take him in. Did you notice that, everyone?
They wouldn't take me in. In fact, one of my kids said to me, I was absolutely amazed, about 10 years ago, she said, well, go out and have a good time. I said, because... but have a few bob left for your own care, because I'm not going to do it for you.
Absolutely.
Well, anyway, that was very nice.
Well, we can always have a whip round.
Ed Davey is not even wanted by his own side now, is he? Let's be honest, there's a load of stuff under...
There are people who are saying, we need somebody different, we need a fresh face, we need to cut through. And I know from being in that job a long time ago, with Paddy Ashdown as leader, that it's very hard to cut through the noise. And then, in those days, there was only, as you know, Labour and the Tories. But now, as you say,
so Polanski is getting all the spotlight at the moment, which is why Burnham knows that he is in a great degree of difficulty. And I think that the people... Look, I don't know Gorton and Denton well, but a friend of mine does, and he says it's absolutely a shocking area, very poor.
Yeah.
These people do not want to be traded as kind of political pawns.
And the people of Manchester, who have seen really good benefits, just like the people of the West Midlands did under Andy Street, you know, they've got an awful lot of stuff.
No, hold on a second. Andy Street, the people of the West Midlands have not done well under Andy Street. Andy Street was no good. He was good at his PR. He was good for his PR. And then when they got the opportunity, they threw him out. So despite having good PR, if you wander around pretty good parts of Birmingham, you would say to yourself, there has not been good messaging here. And honestly, the thing about Manchester as well is, yes, he's done well on his PR. Let's just see whether the PR extends to Gorton.
He's done very well on his PR because he hits you with a simple message. Tax the rich, it's the fault of the wealthy. And this leads me nicely to the next story that I want to cover. You won't believe this. There is a protest group now that are organising so-called take-backs, where they're just going to go into shops, help themselves and give the spoils, the food and all the rest of it to the people that they decide to be the needy. What do you think to that? See you in a sec. I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Dewbs & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin Mackenzie and Joe Phillips, who's complaining that most of the talk time is going to Kelvin Mackenzie.
Well, ask the audience.
George
They like listening to me.
Of course they do.
Yeah, I know. Kelvin gets the most talk time because I'm trying not to kill my figures. Joe Phillips.
Sorry, do you want me to go now?
No, I'm only teasing. Yeah, George has said, Michelle, you're talking about this by-election thing and the Greens winning over reform. He says, but no one just mentioned the tactical voting element of that. And George, I think you hit the nail on the head. Tactical voting will be absolutely huge in the upcoming elections. Phil says, Michelle, the situation in Crowborough is exactly why we need our very own Donald Trump in this country. What do you think to that? Now, let me talk to you about a protest group now, apparently with links to Just Stop Oil. They have now said that they are going to organise what they call take-backs. They're going to galvanise their activists to tackle, go into a variety of different shops en masse, 50 to 100 activists at a time, and empty the shelves of food, basically to do what they call redistributing to what they call the needy.
Shocking, yeah.
Kelvin McKenzie, what do you think to this?
So the guy that's spouting on about this, a guy called Arthur Clifton.
Don't even give the name of the group, Rex. I don't want to promote these imbeciles.
Okay, but I'm giving you the name of the guy just in case you can send anybody happens to know him.
In case I want to hook up and have a drink with him because he sounds such a riveting guy.
So the issue there is this: why is he literally allowed to say this stuff, in which he is urging people to break the law through mass shoplifting, right? So it's going to be aimed at M&S, right? So what have M&S got to do? They've got to hire huge amounts of security. Why? Because the police say any amount taken under 200 quid, we're not going to act for, which is a absolutely ludicrous thing to say in the first place. But we are going to need this guy to be arrested. After all, you can have a tweet where no action is taken. It may be wrong, the tweet, but no action is taken. You can end up with 31 months. This guy here is planning a mass criminal conspiracy. I would like to see the Metropolitan Commissioner say tomorrow morning that we are arresting him and people like him. Our country, if this is allowed to go ahead, that food is allowed just to be stolen as part of some political activism, then we have reached a point where we need a new government, let alone a new Metropolitan Commission.
Well, I just find it utterly patronising. And who the hell do these people think they are? There are food banks. There are lots and lots of really good organisations like the Trussell Trust. And lots of the big supermarkets always give their food, not rubbish food, but they give it to charities and organisations, you know, for passing on, for freezing or canned goods or stuff like that. And, you know, even places like fried chicken shops, well-known chains like KFC, for instance, they will give food to the organisers. So somebody, you know, airbrained 25-year-old is going to decide who's needy and who isn't.
But
why not?
He's an organiser.
Yeah.
It's not just spouting. He is saying this is what we intend to do. If are we as a country prepared to allow anybody just to come and say that and do that? What happens if you're M&S? You know, M&S, the great thing about M&S, they're supplying food, but they're also supplying profits and they're supplying work to thousands of employees. I do not want to see them shut down. I want to see this guy shut down. I just looked at his background here. He was a 26 grand a year a pupil at Latimer Upper School. His father, Mike, is an executive at the insurance company, Choice School. He comes... They've spun off this kid. He's entitled to have a view. He's not entitled to shoplift and organise shoplifting as part of political activism.
I've just got to say, obviously, this guy is not here. And if he was here, he would, I'm sure, be saying that he's not trying to do anything wrong. He would be saying about civil disobedience and all the rest of it. This stuff is dangerous, though, because it was literally not that long ago, very recently, in fact, that what do you call them, like a store attendant, basically, security guard, he was stabbed in a Marks and Spencer. So this stuff is really, really dangerous. And, of course, this is not just targeting Marks and Spencer. I've got to say this. Apparently, they're going to target a whole variety of things. We, as a nation, have emboldened people who have gone to university. They've been absolutely indoctrinated by left-wing activist tutors. They go around in this society, Joe Phillips, thinking they can do what they want, glue themselves to roads, chuck paint at artwork and all the rest of it, you name it. go around with their paint daubing it all over buildings that they don't like, projecting this everywhere. We've emboldened this kind of behaviour.
And also, so have the police, as Kelvin said, but by not doing anything about shoplifting, which has driven retailers mad for donkey's years. If it's not over 200 quid, we're not even going to investigate. Well, 200 quid for a shop, maybe not a big supermarket, but for an ordinary little sort of grocer's store, is appalling. It's an absolute outrage.
I was in Poundland the other day. It was about 8:45 in the morning. No, I was there doing a little shop, and this woman walked in and she filled this bag full of God only knows what. She must have got hundreds of pounds of stuff. Just walked out the shop, and I was like, hello, security guy. And the guy was just like, yeah, we'll check CCTV. Honestly, of course, that's the problem. People know they can just get away with whatever it is that they want. Law and order is broken anyway.
Were you working there?
No, I was not. The clock's broken. That's all I've got time for. Thanks, panel. Thanks you at home. Have a great night. Night-night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening. Yes, it's time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. I've got more wind, more rain and more weather warnings to tell you about. It's been a very soggy day for some, and the rain continuing to fall in eastern Scotland from this weather front. There's another one draped across Wales and Northern Ireland, and this low now approaching from the southwest is going to bring more rain and strong winds into the southwest later tonight. Yellow warnings